Did you hear that? Take people where you find them. In other words, uh, uh, don't go looking for a certain type of person. Just accept whoever comes to you. And by the way, you're not really finding them anymore. They're finding you. That's what people are doing. Millions and millions of people every day are doing this, and they're doing it 4, 5, 6 times a day. They're going out and they're making purchases, they're making decisions based upon their search, not your search. If you want to be attractive, remember these 4 words: tell them a story. Stories are powerful. I want to tell you a story right now to give you an example of just how this can work. And this is a true story from my past. I should tell you that I used to be a consultant in the hospitality industry. Did a lot of work with restaurants and hotels and convention centers and that sort of thing. I still do from time to time. But this is when I was doing a lot of it. Well, it was just a few weeks after the attacks of 9/11. So this was probably early October, maybe late September of 2001. The city of Orlando called me in to speak to their members of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. These were hotel executives. These were travel agents and airline executives and people from Disney and that sort of thing, and the other attractions. And I was coming in there to speak to them about how do we survive the downturn in business that happened right after 9/11. Now, by the way, is this sounding familiar? And this is why I'm telling you this story at this time. So they called me in there. I was the only sort of outside speaker. The rest of the people were state officials, maybe the PR people that worked for the state as a contractor, and the governor was going to be there. So in the morning session before I spoke, I spoke right after lunch, that all these PR people are saying we have to tell people, we have to convince people it's safe to come back to Orlando. Now, I just flown into the airport, and the airport had National Guardsmen in there with rifles at all the checkpoints, that sort of thing. I mean, it was pretty frightening. And so here are these people saying we have to convince people it's safe to come back to Orlando. And they were going on about this. Well, Governor Jeb Bush stood up because it was his turn to speak, and he said something that stuck with me all these years, 19 years later, where I just remember this, and he said very powerful words. He said, we have to make it safe and then tell them it's safe. And by the way, doesn't that apply to today's situation? Folks, tell them a story. It's the way to communicate. You'll love it. It all starts with a story. You have to make a story that's relatable so your prospects, your customers, your partners will see themselves in that story. Use characters that people can relate to, and use situations that have meaning for people today. That's why I told you that story about 9/11. There's a lot of similarities between now and today. Stay with your stories. Help people learn from them. Hey, listen, throw some jokes in too every now and then. Use stories from that, but tell them a story. Stories become the attractors. Now, what do we mean by a story? Well, it could be a story of a personal experience of yours, or like I just told you, or someone else's story. It could be a YouTube video or some other kind of video. In other words, it's something that sort of interrupts the regular flow of information and gets people absorbed so they focus on it. And you're going to use stories as attractors. In other words, you're going to try to get people to come to you to seek information, to seek help, to resolve issues. And you're going to use stories to help them move through the process of buying from you, whether it's to join you as a partner or to buy products from you. This is what stories can do for you, and use them again and again. Become known as a person who has a good story, or know someone who has a good story, or has a video that's a good story. And guess what? You'll be more attractive. Don't prospect, prosper. I'll tell you, I love this idea. I wrote a book called You'll Never Get It Right by Doing It Wrong. And it was 20 success crushing mistakes
you didn't know you were making. One of those mistakes is being the prospector instead of becoming the gold. This is so important. I work with all kinds of different organizations, and they're always telling me we have to recruit these kinds of people, or we have to go out and find people that are looking for something. Actually, that's selling. I mean, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you gotta go out and sell ideas to people or sell products to people. I'm talking about becoming so attractive that people find you, and that's all about this idea of, don't be the prospector, be the gold. When you're the gold, you don't prospect, you prosper.